What's happening, listeners? Good day. I want to thank you again for your wonderful time you spent with me all this while. We are running a series on IT related topics all this while, and today we will be looking at a very interesting one, which is under the network security. And when we talk about network security, I want us to look at a topic which is known as what? Intranet. Intranet. What is intranet? Let me not forget to tell you, I remain your friend Joshua. Please feel free to subscribe to my channel. Feel free to share this video, comment on the comment section, and don't forget to like. Now, let's move straight to what we have for today. An intranet, as the name implies, the word intra is talking about intra. Okay, it's talking about things that are what within a domain. Okay, not outside the domain. Okay, intra. An intranet is a private network that is heavily protected by many different network devices. Mark that word. By many different network devices, such as router, firewall, proxy server, demilitarized zone, which is DMZ, and honeynet, IPS, intrusion prevention system, and IDS, intrusion detection system. You see, all these features, security features, are embedded when setting up an intranet architecture. Okay, you see how secure it is because it deals with internal data that has to do with every users within that domain. Okay, so it is highly protected, heavily protected. Okay, so an intranet has all these features to make sure that security is being properly checkmate. Is being put in place to checkmate loopholes. Okay, you see the two last features there, the IPS, okay, which is intrusion detection system. You can as well refer to intrusion detection system, or it's a technology that will help you to keep an eye on a network for any malicious activity attempting to exploit a known vulnerability. When I mention vulnerability, please, I urge you to watch my previous video. We actually explain what vulnerability is. Okay? So with all these features and intranet architecture, while setting it up, they are all embedded in it. Now that we have understood what intranet is, that will move us and push us to one of the features which I want us to look at, which is known as router. Okay? Router. What is router? And what do you understand by the word router? When you hear the word router, what comes into your mind? Okay? Now, we are going to look at this word router. Are you getting it? A router is used to connect network together. Its major function is to send packets based on layer 3 IP address. Okay? As we proceed on this lecture, we'll be talking about, in my subsequent video, we'll be talking about various layers in networks. Okay? We'll be talking about various layers in setting up we'll talk about OSI model as we proceed. Okay? But in router is used to connect networks together. Its function is to make sure that packets are sent based on layer 3 IP address. Okay? Router does exactly what the name implies. Okay, it is a device that routes or forward data from one network to another on their IP address. Okay, now let's go detail in the word router. When we talk about router, when data or packet is received from a router, now what router does, it inspects it, it inspects the data, IP address, and determine of the packet was sent or meant for that network or for another network. So more or less, like a router is like it checkmates any packet. Okay, why it's being sent across one network to another. Okay, you see how powerful it is. So I'm going to talk about router in my subsequent video, but why I'm picking it up in this particular topic, under this topic, intranet, because while setting up architecture and intranet architecture, all these are features that are usually embedded. Now, in the next slide, we'll talk about router access control limit. Router access control limit. What do we mean by router access control limit? Router access control limit, we will be talking about the router access control is used to control traffic based on TCP or UDP. TCP, when we talk about TCP, we are talking about transmission control protocol, UDP, user datagram data protocol, or port numbers. Okay? So we cannot talk about router, we cannot talk about access control in the absence of router, because router also was control access. Like we see in our previous slide, where we are talking about how is checkmate when a packet is sent from one network or to the another network. Okay? Now note that the primary reason for access control limit is to provide a basic level of security for the network. That is the primary level of access control limit, is to make sure it provide a basic level of security for the network. Now, if that is understood, let's take and go to the next slide, where we will see what access control limit is all about. What actually is access control limit? Access control limit, we will be looking at it from this angle, that when we talk about it, we should not look at it from one angle, all right? We should look at it from both direction, all right? We should look at it from both direction in such a way that access control limit, the main function of access control limit is to control traffic in both direction. That is, both incoming and outgoing traffic. You know, in my previous video where I was talking about firewall, all right, we talk about proxy firewall, all right, where we say it checkmate both in, it's a two-headed device that look both the inward and outward movement of the packets. Okay, so when you talk about access control limit, it also does the same function. It also look at the traffic in both directions, the incoming and outgoing traffic. Are you getting it now? Now that we understood what access control limit is, let's talk about this access control limit versus router. How does these two work together? What are the similarity features? What relationship do one have with each other? All right. Now let's talk about access control limit. It tells how the router, or it tells the router to carry out permission or deny traffic based on the following variables condition. You see, it just told me that the two work pari passu, access control limit and router. So if access control limit tells the router to carry out permissions or deny permission, traffic based on the following variable. And what are those variables? One, we talk about what? Destination subnet. All these are topics we will be looking at in our subsequent video. Okay, when access control is telling router what to do based on this following condition, and the one of these conditions is it has to do with what? Destination subnet. Okay, what is the destination subnet? Okay, is this subnet recognized by the router? What direction, from what source is this subnet or this destination coming from? We'll talk about destination IP address. From where is this IP address coming from? We talk about source subnet max. Okay? And also, it also look at, as one of the variable, the source IP what? Address. You see, so far so good. Like I said, we've been able to look at what an intranet is, and we saw that, we observed that, and we learned that intranet is a private network which is heavily protected by many different network devices such as router, firewall, proxy, server, demilitarized zone, honeynet, IP address, IPS, and IDS. Okay, and we'll be able to look at what router is. As well, we'll see and we'll be able to look at what router access control limit is, and also access control limit as a whole, how it works. Now, lastly, we're able to look at how access control give or tells router what to do based on what these following what conditions. So far so good. It's a very short topic. I will urge you to read more on intranet, and every one of these topics that will be just pointed, because in my subsequent video, we are going to give it a deep explanation. Okay, we're going to look at it in detail so that we will know what all this destination subnet is, what destination IP address is, what subnet mask is, and what source IP address is. Even this demilitarized zone, okay, what it actually is, or what it means, okay, because when we hear all these keywords, all these terms, we'll be wondering what actually does this keywords stand for. All right, demilitarized zone, like you know, very quickly I will tell you that it allows a designated computer to be fully exposed to the internet. That's what demilitarized zone does. Okay, that's what it does. The demilitarized zone is typically used for testing purpose. All right, so let me go back to the slide. When we talk about demilitarized zone, it's used for testing what purpose? It's used for what? Testing purpose, yes. Okay, it's typically used for testing purpose. It is outside a firewall. It is used to set up a computer that should use or that should have access to a private network. Yes, sorry. It is also used to set up a computer that should have access to a private network. And again, the militarized zone can as well it can as well assign IP address. Okay, unlike where DHCP. When we talk about dynamic host configuration protocol. Okay, all right. All these are topics we'll be using, looking at this term and all these keywords in my subsequent video. Thank you for your time. I remain your friend Joshua. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to comment. Please, thank you for your time and remain blessed.